And then all of a sudden he just goes, who needs a loan? Do you need a loan? Do you need a loan? And like just started like pitching. And I was like, oh,
It worked.
no.
People came up. They're like, yeah, I need a loan. I'm like, all right, man.
I thought he was just wearing a monkey mask.
That was the other guy that was getting all the speeding camera tickets. He just wore a monkey mask and he got let off on like thousands and thousands of dollars because he's like, that's not me. Smart guy. That is a golf clap thing for him right there. Good job. It's one of the best parts of my job, I would say, is really going through their financial information and be like, here, this is what you're looking at. This is what banks look at. And it truly changes their perspective on what their business and where they're going and helps them out.
Hello and welcome to Good Job New Mexico. I'm your host, Stacy Johnston. And today my guest co-host is Veronica Robledo Morris, who is an administrative support specialist here at the Department of Workforce Solutions. Hello.
Hi.
Thanks for joining me on this one.
Of course.
This was a really fun one, a really special one for me. It is my husband, who is Brad Johnston. He's a VP Business Relationship Manager in the banking world. Veronica actually knew him before I did. So that's why I was so excited that she could be here to be our special co-host and learn all about Brad and his career journey. Did you know all of that about him and what he had done?
No, not at all.
Yeah, so it was exciting to hear, and I'm glad that he was able to share what's happened with him and his career journey, because not only has he been laid off once, but he's been laid off twice. And the bounce back and him pushing through all of that and still having a very successful career was cool to hear, and I'm glad he was able to share it.
It's nice to see someone come out on the other side of not getting frustrated, of getting laid off and finding a good career.
Hold on. I don't know if he was not frustrated. I think that might have been part of it. But he's somebody that I always go to for advice. He's been an amazing manager before, and just his insight into the working world. He's just someone that's always been a good sounding board for me. And quite frankly, as soon as I started talking about this podcast and being an idea, he was like, well, when am I going to be a guest? So he's been very patient.
2 years.
This long. And now he's finally here. But yeah, he's a funny one.
He is. He is a good soundboard, though. He has a good way of making you calm down.
Yeah, he always brings the fun to it. I think he definitely is somebody that keeps his coworkers on their toes when he's at work, as I'm sure most of them, if they're listening, they'll be like, oh yeah, we remember Brad. Or those that have worked with him in the past. But, he's just a fun guy, but he's also he's great at what he does. He's a talker. Have you always known he was a talker?
Oh my gosh, yes. He could spend hours on the phone.
I know, right? It's like his thing. And now since the pandemic, he's like a pacer. So he can't just sit and talk to somebody on the phone. He's got to get up. He's got to walk around.
That would drive me crazy. I'd be like, sit down.
I know, right? It's always like, he's doing his thing. Just let him be on the phone, because he continues to work like after hours. He's like constantly talking with people, and that's probably the nature of his job. But, other people, we disconnect. That's like, okay, the clock has ended and that is it. But do you feel like there's a certain point in career where it's just like you just keep going, even though the 8 hours are done, but you just have things that have to happen?
Yeah, I feel like I'm in that time. Like, I do leave here and I try to disconnect, but I think about, if I leave early, I think about, oh gosh, if I'm missing something? So I check my email and, want to answer someone right away and not make them wait till, the next day or whatever. So I feel like once you kind of get into a certain time, you really have to, it's hard to disconnect. And so I think I'm in that role where it's like hard to leave here and not think about work.
Yeah, for sure. It's like a big chunk of our lives is our work life.
You're here more than you are at home.
It feels like it. Sometimes it's like, but I just left here. And I'm magically right back. What happened? Yeah. Did I sleep? Yeah. But we want to hear more about you and your career journey. So can you give us insight into how you got to the department?
Sure. So I started working at 15 years old, and I worked for my dad, he was the executive chef at the Albuquerque Petroleum Club. So I got a summer job working in the office there, just doing administrative stuff. So I did that. And then I worked at Dion's. I think that's every high schooler works at Dion's at some point, maybe.
Did you get to take home food at the end of the day?
No, but if you worked a certain amount of hours, you got to eat there. So depending on how long you worked, you may get a meal.
I mean, I go there every week. There's not one week where I don't go to Dion's.
You do love Dion's.
I love it so much. If you haven't been to Dion's and you're in New Mexico, especially Albuquerque, go and don't skip out on the ranch. It's so good.
The ranch is good. I don't know. I got to a point from working there that I couldn't eat Dion's for a really long time.
Oh my gosh. Are you back again?
Yes, my daughter loves Dion's pizza, so we do
away.
eat it. So after Dion's, I went into retail and I worked at Gymboree. It was a baby clothing store. And I worked there for several years. I started off as just an associate, and then I worked my way up to being an assistant manager. And I was just fresh out of high school being an assistant manager. So going to school, doing that. And then from there, I continued with retail for a while, and I ended up working at Victoria's Secret as a co-manager. And so I was there for a while, and they were kind of doing some changes, so I got laid off. And from there, that was my first ever time being laid off, so I was a little nervous. So I found a job pretty quickly within a month or so, and I got a job at Alfred Angelo Bridal. And I started off as an assistant manager, and then the store manager left, so I got promoted to store manager. So I worked there for a while, but on the backside, they were going through some things, and so they started laying off people, and I ended up getting laid off as well. So
you're just like Brad, where you went through several layoffs. What was that like for you? Were you able to bounce back right away, or was it hard to, what's my next move? I mean,
after Victoria's Secret, I felt it was easy to bounce back because I just went straight back into retail. After Alfred Angelo Bridal, I didn't want to do retail anymore. It was hard. The hours were hard. Customer service is hard. And so I wanted to do something different. So my mom actually found out about the Workforce Connection Center. I was on unemployment, but she found out that they can help you with school and to get into a different occupation. So I got into the WIA program. And
Workforce Innovation Act.
Thank you. Workforce Innovation Act, yes.
I know now it's like WIOA, which is Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, but yeah.
So I got into that program, and they paid for me to go to CNM for a year. And I got my administrative associates there. And after I finished there, I had a couple of weeks of unemployment left. And then I talked to you.
Yeah.
And you had told me about a position that was open here. So I interviewed here, and I've been here now going on 13 years in June.
That is wild. Okay, when you were a young kid, were you like me and you'd sit and play secretary? Because I would by myself.
Yes. I would go to work with my mom on Take Your Daughter to Work Day, and I would just love like playing with all of the office supplies. And that was always, I played teacher and I played like office assistant when I was young.
It's so fun. Is it just like you were playing as a child?
No. It's hard.
No. And I'm like, what? I don't just take notes and then that's it?
I don't just get to write a few things down and then leave. No.
Right? I know. But you are incredible in what you do. I think you're a go-to person here at the department. And I'm so happy that you chose us and that it's been 13 years later. That went by in a blink.
Yes, it's been fast.
Super fast.
And it's because it never slows down here.
True. We're just like on a fast track, but we're helping people and it's amazing. And Veronica used to sit right by me and literally she would rattle off our unemployment insurance number. And I feel like that's how I really solidly learned your last name because I'd always hear you answering the phone.
Oh, man, I have nightmares about that phone number. I would wake myself up from a deep sleep reciting that phone number because I recited it so much every single day.
For sure. It's going to be my very first home phone number and that number that I'll remember for the rest of my life. Anyway, this was a fun one, and I'm so thrilled that you were able to join me on this particular interview, and I hope everyone else enjoys it as well. So without further ado, here is my husband, Brad Johnston. Hi, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Finally. Only you have no idea how many extra chores I had to do around the house to finally get here.
Oh my gosh.
So we're going to start growing up in Los Alamos, which is a smaller community. And what was that like? And tell us about what your parents did.
Yeah, Los Alamos was a small little town. You basically have 18,000 parents because everybody knows each other. But both my parents were part of the schools. So unfortunately, I got to the principal's office more than any other kid in the history of Los Alamos, just because they all knew anything you did, said, oh, you look what Brad got on this test. And so that was frustrating because basically all through kindergarten through high school, I had a parent in the schools.
Did that deter you from wanting to go into education?
Absolutely. Yeah. The stories that they told me with all the kids and the things that they would do. And I was like, who does this? You know, why would you want to continue this path? Like,
but didn't you respect teachers even more with what they have to go through?
Oh, yeah. The kids are terrible.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, hold on.
You
can say
I have never...
cutting that part out.
Is that the cut part right there? You know, again, Los Alamos, small town, there was nothing to do. You know, after 6 o'clock, the entire town shut down except for Sonic, Baskin-Robbins, and McDonald's. So that's what you did.
Well, I kind of feel like when you're a certain age, because I know I went through that too. Did you, Veronica? Where it was like, there is nothing to do in this town, but there's like tons of stuff to do. It's just like what you think there is to do. You just can't find it or something.
Are you talking about Albuquerque?
Yeah, I remember saying that.
Are you kidding me?
Cruising down Montgomery.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was like, what are we going to do? We're going to go waste our gas. That's what we're going to go do.
Go sit in a parking lot.
Yeah.
Well, we went to the cemetery and scared
a little
the girls.
A little different.
I mean,
yeah.
Go into the woods and play hide and seek. I mean, it was ridiculous, the things that you had to come up with to entertain yourself.
Let's take a little pivot and talk about your first job as a teenager. What was it?
Basket room attendant at East Park Pool.
And what did that entail?
Well, the job description really didn't fit what actually I did. So basically, I would help people sign in. And if they needed a basket, I would give them a basket for their shoes, whatever, and blah, blah, blah. What they didn't tell you, though, is your primary job is going to be the snack bar. And you're going to be in this blistering hot, smoky grill cooking burgers, hot dogs, and grilled cheese for the entire afternoon. And then you had to clean it with all the grease and everything. It was torture. Yeah, they didn't mention it. There's like, well, there's a little snack bar thing. I was like, okay, am I handing out like candy? I'm like, yeah, something like that. Then all of a sudden they're like, no, you got to cook all these burgers and do all these things.
And you were how old?
Carry the one. 14.
14.
Trusting a 14-year-old to cook your burger.
Yeah.
About that.
I know I definitely didn't cook them right. That's for sure.
Sorry to anybody that was around that time.
And sometimes, if it fell, you just got the 5-second rule,
Oh,
dust it
okay.
off. No, I didn't do that. That was the other guy.
Okay.
But that was the first job. And then I kind of continued with that pool and became a lifeguard and then the manager and everything. So it was a cool experience. But
A manager at what age? 16?
17, 18? I was a senior. So they saw the potential.
I feel like you had a lot of jobs, though, in Los Alamos.
Yeah, well, you kind of bounce around. Obviously, yeah, everybody went to the labs at one point in their career. So I had a lab job. That was terrible. I was just like filing papers the whole day. So quit that. Then if you were really cool, you got to work at Baskin-Robbins.
Okay, that's where it's at. That's where it's at.
That was the place to be. If you're the owner, his son played basketball. And so kind of the trend, all the basketball players would go. And the cool place was to be Baskin-Robbins. I mean, it was packed. So we would be back there on a Friday night, and that's when you would make all your tips. I mean, we'd walk out of there sometimes with like $50, $60 in tips alone each because so many people would show up.
For the entertainment or for the ice cream?
Well, I'm hoping for both. Yeah,
okay.
We did have a little entertainment. Unfortunately, Backstreet Boys was so in.
You just, no.
I don't know if you heard the song,
No.
I Want It That Way. Yeah.
No, well, okay. Veronica and I were talking about this yesterday. We're like, we're going to ask him, Backstreet Boys or NSYNC?
I mean, I'm an NSYNC guy, but unfortunately Backstreet Boys was the song to be. And so that came on every other like song on the radio. And we had our little scoopers.
So you gave a concert of your own.
Yeah. Given context now, I'm regretting that a little bit. But at the time, it was really cool.
Did you do the dance moves too?
Oh, I mean, did something. We had for the tips,
Did you practice a routine?
No, we freelanced it, but I mean, after a while, because you do it like 8 times a night, because it comes on every other song, and then it's like, so you kind of get a groove going of what you're doing and where you're supposed to stand and things like that nature. But
And then did you know what you wanted to do for college?
absolutely not. No clue.
Did your
I
parents?
knew I didn't like science because
Yeah.
I despised my biology teacher in high school. So if she's listening, sorry, Mrs. Spears, but it was rough. She knows it too. She felt it.
Stop. Okay.
But so I definitely didn't want to do anything in science. So that pretty much took out probably any medical. Yeah, I really was sure. We had a business class in high school that I went to that I got an A in. So I thought, well, maybe that's something cool. But I really didn't know what I wanted to do up until I went to New York in my internship. And
How did you get that internship?
my uncle lived in New York and he had some connections. And so all of a sudden he was like, yeah, come on out to New York and you can stay with me and work at this internship. And I was like, great. What is it? Where's, he's like, oh, it's Elliott Associates hedge fund firm. I was like, awesome. What's a hedge fund firm? I still don't know, to be honest. That's kind of how it started, where I was like, oh, this is cool. Like, it was a business atmosphere, office space, watching these guys wheeling, dealing, and everything like that. And I met an executive out there. He was like, yeah, what are you going for? And I was like, well, I think marketing. And he's like, nah, you don't do that at all, man. He's like, start fresh, go to finance. He's like, go to marketing, you're going to get first wave to get fired. I was like, oh, interesting. He's like, that's what we do. I fire all the marketing people. I was like, okay. So she's like, go into finance. You'll have a better diverse. I know, sorry, you went to marketing.
I know, like
Sorry,
when you
my
met
bad.
me.
I was waiting for him to
When
realize.
you met me in college, let's just ask. When you met me in college and I was doing marketing, in the back of your head, were you thinking, wrong choice?
Good thing she's cute. That's how I got into the finances. He told me, he's like, get out of that. And then I converted my degree to finance, but I owe it to New York. It was even more crazy. Like when I first got there, I went for my interview. And this is great for anybody who has ever been through a crazy interview, but this by far, I would say, is the craziest one I've ever been. But I walk into this room and there's this table. I'll never forget the table. It was the biggest table I've ever seen. Like there was like 70 chairs and the secretary person walks me and she's like, okay, have a seat. Like, which seat do you pick? Obviously you don't take the head, but do I take the middle? Do I take the first one?
I think you would have chosen the middle. What would you have chosen?
Probably a little bit closer to
one of the ends?
yeah.
Yeah. I chose the one right next to the head because I thought that's where he would come in. He'd sit at the
And there were no papers on the table.
Nothing.
So it was
It
really
was
just like
bare.
first test, which chair
Yeah.
will he choose?
Yeah. It got worse. So yeah, finally this guy walks in and he's wearing like a $10,000 suit. I mean, you could tell. It was like, wow, okay, that's impressive. And he has a piece of paper and a pen, shakes my hand, and he puts the paper and the pen down. He's like, I have 2 questions for you. I was like, okay. And he's like, the first question is, how many barbers are there in America? I was like, okay. And the second question was, if a fly is flying this direction and a train is coming at it and they collide, does the fly ever actually stop going this direction and then go with the train? Or does it like actually have a stopping point, or does it get continuous motion, and why? And he's like, good luck. And he walked out. That was my interview. And I'm like, I was hoping for, tell me about a time.
Tell me your strengths and weaknesses.
I got that down and I was like, what? And so luckily he was like, you have an hour. I didn't really know what to do. All I knew, I was like, well, I think there's like 300 million people in America. He said barbers. So cut that in half because barber's a man. And I just started dividing and and so I came up with my answers, got the job. I think I had the job anyways, but it was still like, talk about instant armpit sweat.
For sure.
I mean, like, I didn't even know what to do. I think I sat there for 15 minutes probably going like, what just happened? And
Yeah.
is this
a joke?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe he'll just come back in like, just kidding.
Mhm.
Let's have a real interview. Like, did not.
So did you write it on a piece of paper, or did he just want to talk to you about it?
I wrote it down.
Okay, and he reviewed the paper, and then what?
Yeah, then he gave me a grade.
Okay,
What was your grade?
No, I got a smiley face.
Oh,
Just kidding.
kindergarten.
He put a sticker on there. Great work.
How would you describe an average day of the work you do now?
I don't know if there is an average day. Every day is different. It just depends on what your customers call you for. And then you see how bad it's going to get. My job now, I basically handle large end customers for the bank and with whatever they need done for business purposes, for loans, for depository or problems or any of that stuff. Create a one person, point of contact to, hey, what about this? What do you think? What should we do? Oh, this got this problem. So I don't know if there's an average day, because every day is like your phone rings. You're like, well, what's going to happen now? I'm still, it's usually problem solving, right? It's all day. That's what I do. And because I'm still waiting for the day that a customer actually calls me and says, I just want you to know I don't have any issues and I'm super happy.
Not going to happen.
Hasn't
I don't
happened
think
yet.
that's ever going to happen.
Just putting that PSA out there for any of his customers if you want to call him.
If you could, that'd be great. Make my day. But I truly enjoy my job. Like, you really get to go in and help the customers out with all their financial necessities and really change the business a lot of times for better based on things that you suggest, and help them grow their business, understand their business, go through the financials of it all. It's actually pretty shocking how many people don't actually look at their financial information and realize like how their company's doing. And it's not a bad thing. They have 8,000 things on their plate. But when you finally go through it and they're like, whoa, that's, this is cool. It's one of the best parts of my job, I would say, is really going through their financial information and be like, here, this is what you're looking at. This is what banks look at. And it truly changes their perspective on what their business and where they're going and helps them out. So,
okay, I'm just going to circle back a little bit because I feel like when that guy said, don't do marketing, blah, 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 I feel like
you're really upset about that, aren't you?
Well, okay. I really feel like part of your job is marketing, because when we first started dating, I was like, who is this guy? Because you were like, we would go to karaoke nights at the bowling alley and he'd get up there and I was like, oh, he's going to go sing. I'm like, this will be great. And he gets up there and gets the microphone and the song starts and he looks at everybody like he's going to sing. And then all of a sudden he just goes, who needs a loan? Do you need a loan? Do you need a loan? And like just started like pitching for like business. And I was like, oh,
it worked.
no.
People came up. They're like, yeah, I need a loan. I'm like, all right, man. Write your name on this bar
Yeah,
napkin.
you're
and-
marketing your business.
You're marketing your business. And then part of your job, which I don't even think that you realized was going to be part of your job, is networking. And part of that's marketing and all of the stuff, right?
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 Yeah. I feel like I have to agree with you right now because you're
Right?
you're a little fired up at this point.
Did you get a job right out of college?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Was it like when you were still in, like you were set up to go?
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, I was graduating and I was starting like the next week or something like
From
that.
a career fair?
Mhm.
On campus?
Yep.
UNM, go Lobos.
Yep. Woof, woof. That made me
But
laugh too.
what was the job?
So it's Wells Fargo Financial. And I just remember, as far as like career path wise, whatever, I was going for finance. And so we would go to these job fairs and there'd be a ton of companies there, right? And, you'd see something, marketing, you're like, I'm not going to that.
I swear. I feel personally attacked.
So you'd find these finance ones, but a lot of them were like investment firms, and like Northwestern Mutual and things of that nature. And we started going to those, interviews and having those conversations with the people. But it was always terrifying because I was like, they're full commission. There's no guaranteed salary. You got to sell or die, and that didn't entertain me. But when I finally came across Wells Fargo Financial, they're like, yeah, it's a salary-based job. I was like, oh, this sounds really cool. So the first job I ever did was Wells Fargo Financial. It was consumer loan financing, but it was in the subprime market. And you want to talk about a hard job. Oh my God. You had to be picking up the phone 60, 70, 80 times a day, calling these customers and trying to get them to come in so you can show them. Now, it was a really good thing. There were a lot of people that we truly helped. Like, they had a ton of credit card debts and things, and we were able to, I still remember this one guy. We reduced his monthly payments by like $12,000 by doing something. I mean, it was insane. So there was a lot of good things that came out of it, but it was a tough job. It was just cold call after cold call after cold call. Somebody would hang up on you and your manager would be like, just call him back. And you're like, he told me to kick dirt. I don't really feel like calling him back. And they're like, call him back. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Yeah, we did pretty good there. And then finally they were like, you need to be manager. And I had this district manager that was cuckoo. And he basically said, if you don't take this next branch manager job, like, I'm not going to find another one for you. I'm going to make sure you don't get another one.
And I feel like this was like a pressure point to just be like, you probably could have stayed where you were, but they're just pressure tactics.
I think I was in line for the
take
next
it.
job in Albuquerque, I thought.
Yeah.
And then they gave it to this other person. I'll remain anonymous on that one. So anyways, basically said, I got this branch manager job in this town, in Phoenix. It was just a little outside of Phoenix. I was like, cool, Phoenix. Well, just a little outside was like 85 miles away from Phoenix in this little town called Prescott. And it was a really cute town. Like it's, again, almost it reminded me a lot of almost Los Alamos, like up in the mountains. So really pretty, a lot of trees, things of that nature, but definitely a smaller town.
Did you feel prepared to be a manager when you went there?
I didn't know. I mean, I felt like I was good.
And there was no manager training? It was just
Straight.
purely like what you had seen.
This is your store now.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And they told me about them all, my employees and everything. And I just was like, so let me make sure I'm right. I'm the only guy, right? Like, yeah. I was like, oh. And that scared me because I was like, one, it's my first managing position, and two, an all-woman office, and I was so nervous.
Did you ask anyone for any advice?
Yeah.
Or did you just internalize all of
I
it?
actually met the manager there that was leaving, and she and I went to lunch, and I was like, hey, tell me about everybody. And she really went over, like, she was great. Like, she really passed the bar over to me of, like, each person and their personalities, and, maybe some take offense to this. Yeah. And I still just think of this one lady. She had the best name. It was Lark.
Mm-hmm. And I've never met a Lark before. Have you?
Just the actress from Saved by the Bell. I've never met her.
Oh, yeah.
But her name was Lark.
That was one of my all-time favorite shows.
That really was her name?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like religious about that show. I didn't remember her name was Lark.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean her real name, not her name on the show.
Yeah. He's like, I don't remember that in the show.
Her real
Her
name
name on the
is.
show was Lisa.
Yeah. Zach Morris, whatever his real name is, he's Zach Morris. It's not. What's his name? Paul?
I don't even know. I'm sorry.
I don't
Doesn't
know.
matter. He's Zach Morris. AC Slater, I see him on that one Today Show all the time. Yeah.
You're like, AC, what
That's
are you
his
doing?
name. It's not Stop trying to make it up here.
Well, I think that was wise of you to reach out to that exiting manager to get the lay of the land. I mean, they didn't recommend that. You just said, I should probably do this.
Yeah. Because I came from an office that was all male. So, we were playing basketball and during little quick breaks and,
Totally different
totally
dynamic.
different dynamic. But it was awesome. They were so welcoming and they worked hard and they knew the community really well. Oh, and by the way, it's not Prescott, it's Prescott.
And they told you that day one.
You will be burned and crucified.
No.
Oh my, this lady let me have it.
Oh no, because you said it wrong.
I said, oh yeah, I'm moving to Prescott. She's like, it's Prescott, sir. I was like,
I almost corrected you when you said, well, I'm glad I didn't say anything.
but I was like, it doesn't spell like Prescott. It looks like Prescott. There's an O there, not a eh.
You're like, excuse me, my parents were educators.
Yeah.
They taught
I
me
went to
my...
Los Alamos. Okay. We had spelling bees.
So how long were you at that management job?
So I was only there for like 6 months and did really well. But I finally met another guy with Wells Fargo Financial that kind of gave him my sob story. Like, yeah, my wife's trying to move out here because it was it was like right in the middle of the recession. And so we were trying to get you out there. I'm pointing to my wife, Stacy, trying to get her to come out and find a job. And we could not find a job. Kind of gave him my sob story of my wife's not here and I have to drive 90 miles every day. And so eventually, but I did really well at the branch. And so he's like, what are you doing in this small little, I'm going to give you the biggest branch in Phoenix. And so they moved me downtown Phoenix, which is hilarious because it was like an hour from my door to my branch in Prescott. And then I moved downtown and it was an hour and a half.
So it was longer from where you
You
lived.
had to go through the traffic and, it was exhausting. But we only went 25 miles as opposed to like 90 miles each way. So, but
An
anyways,
hour and a half drive, and you only went 20 miles, 25 miles.
we do not have traffic in Albuquerque, FYI, everybody. Okay. It's not there. Go to Phoenix, go to LA, any one of the Dallas, Texas Metro, that's traffic.
I think ours is traffic to me.
To me. Well, I don't know. It takes me like, 45 minutes. It's a long time.
I know. I heard of this guy in Phoenix, and I actually thought about doing it. I was like, that's a genius idea. Because they have those HOV lanes, and you see these people, and you're sitting there going 2 miles an hour. So what was that movie, The Office Space, right? And he's in that traffic, and that lady in the walker is passing him or something like that. That's how I felt in the thing. Like these HOVs are just flying by. You're like, what in the world? But you had to have 2 people in the car. And the cops were religious over there about it. Like they would be sitting there watching people. And this guy, he had created like a blow up person looking thing. And
I
That's
thought
how he
he
got
was
into
just wearing a monkey mask or something.
That was the other guy that was getting all the speeding camera tickets. He just
Yeah.
wore a monkey mask, and he got let off on like thousands and thousands of dollars because he's like, that's not me. Smart guy. So that is a
recommend
golf
it.
clap thing for him right there. Good job. Were you secretly so excited when I came home? Like, I lost my job.
No, I was really worried. Worried with like you, because being laid off is a traumatic experience. So I was worried about you and where you thought you were going to go, because I think we had discussed this was like your career. You were in it for the long haul with Wells Fargo. And for that to be kind of like pulled out from underneath you, it was like, all right, well, what's our next step here? So what were your thoughts there?
It was tough. Obviously, you have a plan and then it just changes and you got to be like, well, I wasn't expecting that change. I think that's the hardest part about being laid off, let go. It's not your decision. At the end of the day, it's kind of a cool, if you can think about it, it's a cool concept to just be like, all right, let me just take a step back and really kind of analyze my life. Was I really enjoying what I'm doing? Did I really see a long-term future here? And kind of what do I want to do now? Initially I was like, well, I think I want to stick with the bank. So I was like, that makes the easiest transition. I can just transition over. I don't have to, restart, because basically if they kept you on, then you would continue your tenure with the bank. But that became impossible in Phoenix. It got like scary. I would call them, email them, call them again. And managers, nobody would call me back. It was crazy. But again, they're in the recession. They had people. So eventually I don't know, for whatever reason. And that's what I think. So a lot of things in your life, you say by luck maybe, but I think a lot of it could be by maybe fate. You and I both know we didn't want to be in Phoenix any longer. And I was like, well, I haven't looked at New Mexico. Let me just check that out. And boom, lo and behold, was this business relationship manager. And I remember reading the details going like, well, I can't do any of that. But I'm going to apply anyways because I think that'd be cool. And I really did think I knew a little bit more about business, because any business customer that came into Wells Fargo Financial, they just said, oh, just go to Brad. He knows how to do it. I didn't know. I mean, I thought I did, but I really didn't know what I was, what to do. But I had a great conversation and basically got the job and came back. And I think for anybody, with advice that I always give is, read the job description. There's some basic requirements, but seriously, you don't need to look at all those. If you can interview well, act well, they'll get past those things that maybe, I don't have the experience in this program or whatever. It doesn't matter. I didn't have any experience to be going into business banking technically, but I felt like I knew enough and could really go into it. They're going to teach you everything you need to know. So
I think that's where my problem was when I was applying for jobs out there in
did.
Phoenix. I was trying to find something that matched exactly what I was doing here.
I don't know how to do that program. I'm like, it doesn't
Or I
matter.
had like self-doubt of, I don't think I can do any of these other things. I'm just going to really try to find something that very closely matches what I'm already doing. So, and that might have been why I struggled, was not broadening the scope.
Yeah. Again, you read too much into it. You talk yourself out of it. No, take your shot. It's okay. If you don't have, I don't have that. I don't have that. I mean, the biggest one sometimes would be the degree, but even that you can get by with it.
But even if you don't get the job, the interview could be a good learning experience or a good, key for the next interview going.
All right.
So then we got to come back. Yay, thanks. Back to New Mexico.
Thank you for coming back.
Yes.
Bringing my work bestie.
Yeah. So, I came back and then I stuck it out with Wells Fargo another 12 years, then got laid off again.
Yeah, it was another big shift for the bank,
Yep.
which left you during pandemic.
Right.
Mhm.
Right at the pandemic. So,
Was it a different feeling at that time? Because at the other time, it's like, well, I know we're a recession or whatever, but there's still like jobs out there. During pandemic, did you have any thoughts of like, am I going to find another job?
no, I think the biggest question for me was like, do I even want to do this banking thing anymore?
So you questioned it after the second layoff.
Absolutely. I was like, is this something I really want to do for the rest of my life? Because especially, during the pandemic era, it got really dark there. It was literally probably the darkest time of my life, employee or career. There's just a lot of things that happened, that didn't happen, and some really, really tough conversations towards the end there during the pandemic. And we were going through the PPP process. And I had, again, some of the darkest conversations with clients, and it just gutted me. And I was like, do I even want to do this? Who wants to do this? This isn't fun. But then again, an opportunity presented itself, and I was like, oh, this is great. And was able to transition over to another bank. And, again, if you can just take any time when you're, if you get laid off, or, whatever, the first thing I always do is, hey, just breathe. Just take a deep breath, sit back, kind of think about it. I think the worst part about it is a lot of them, you get a package, but you have to keep working. You know, they had me on a 30-day working period. And so they're like, yeah, you need to work. Otherwise, we can take that package away. And it's like, okay. But then you'd be on the calls like the next week or so. And they'd be like, well, Brad, what's going on with this customer? What's going on with that? And, you know, my initial answer is like, I don't care at all. But you had to be kind of in it. And so those were some tough times. But, you know, like I said, I was able to just kind of figure it out and found a job, 2 weeks after.
I feel like it was really fast, yeah. And now you're in a bank that you're loving the job.
Mm-hmm.
So all of those ups and downs, and now you're in a position that you're really liking, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Love it. I'm
Double checking,
truly
right?
enjoying where I'm at right now. It's definitely the best bank I've been to ever. So.
And then you also met an amazing mentor, who I think has been a great sounding board for you.
Yeah.
And also,
I think anybody who wants to be successful has to have that. You gotta have one. You need to have a good person you work for. As I look at your employees right now, and they're like, "Yeah, just kidding."
They're like,
"This is torture over here." And then having a good mentor, somebody that you can, you know, bounce ideas, talk to, vent to, you know, blow off steam to. That's able to encourage you, push you, doing all that stuff. And that's what he's been for me for the last 14 years, 15 years. I mean, he definitely bashes me, but somehow. I see the value of it. So
before you said that, I was going to be like, do you want to give him a shout out?
Thank you, Michael Rockholt. I appreciate it.
What advice would you give your younger self about finding and selecting your career path?
Go back to young Brad in Los Alamos.
No, just kidding.
Don't answer as the Brad now. Answer.
No, I don't know. That's a hard question right now because I'm actually at a point right now in my career where I'm like, I'm truly happy. Like I'm enjoying my job. And so by changing anything, would I not be where I'm at? Right. Because I think you have to go through all those experiences to get to where you want to be. I think the biggest thing that I would advise myself and anybody is listen to yourself, listen to your inner voice. If there's a problem at work, you're like, and this isn't looking good, or things are changing in ways that I think for myself, I don't suffer for too long. Like if you don't like your job, you don't have to be there. Quit. You can find something else. Too many people you see walking around, they're just so angry. They're like, oh God, this job. I mean, if you're literally sitting in your car and kind of like, okay, I can go in. No, hold on. I mean, you're literally trying to psych yourself up to get in. It's probably not the job you want to do. Why do it? Find something else. There's tons of jobs out there, especially nowadays. My God, you can do pretty much anything. Just don't do something that you don't want to do. And I get it. You need a paycheck, but you can find jobs while still doing your job. It's not that hard. So yeah, for me, I think I would be like, don't stick around too long. I had those gut feelings about financial when it started getting really bad and we couldn't do anything. Same thing with Wells Fargo when we were going. I mean, man, things aren't going really well. And so this last bank, I was like, oh, I think I need to move on, and I did. And it's nice finally for a change that it was on my terms than somebody else's. So that made it a little bit easier.
And if you're somebody like that that's thinking about doing a different career path but not sure where to start, we've got America's Job Centers located across New Mexico. I'm trying to do my marketing pitch, but it's great because we can come in and help you for free. Come on and see us. Okay, we're going to go into some rapid, not so rapid questions.
Work in the office or from home?
Home. Did I stutter? Is that too fast?
That was quick.
So way too
that
fast?
Was rapid.
I know. I'll be honest, real fast. I'd like a hybrid. You know, I got really worried for my wife here when she was working from home because she's already kind of an introvert, in case you guys didn't know. But then not actually talking to people. Like I started getting really worried that like
she didn't have that communication.
You were just going to be like such damaged that you wouldn't be able to actually speak to people.
Go out in public and speak to people.
Anymore.
Oh my gosh, Brad.
I was like, this isn't good.
She talked to me every day on the phone. She was fine.
And thanks for that honesty. Okay. Your favorite go-to lunch?
I'm kind of on a Mexican food trip right now, but you know, I'm a guy. I can't eat the same thing like every day. I have to switch it up.
Biggest fear?
Sharks.
I thought it was heights.
That too.
Okay.
But I've jumped out of a plane, so I feel like heights I can get kind of by. But like if it means me diving into the ocean to save
To save me, be like,
You-
you're on your own.
You realize we live in Albuquerque, New Mexico. There are no oceans.
That's why we stay here. We're not leaving. We've had our kids go to the ocean over the summer this last year, and like we barely let them get past their ankles.
Toes only,
Like,
toes
that's
only.
it.
Get back,
I mean,
get back.
I wouldn't either. They could be swept by a wave.
Yes.
You never know.
I didn't care about the waves. I was thinking about those gray and white
The sharks that come right up
predators.
to
Yeah.
the
A great
right
white
up to the
shark.
big
Yeah.
shark. Okay. What's the favorite part of your job?
Dealing with the customers, helping them, and really enhancing their business and finding all their needs in a quick fashion. So yeah.
Describe your job using only emojis.
What's that one with the exploding head? Yeah.
That's it.
That's it.
You already wanted an emoji.
It could be
It
several.
could be multiple.
So exploding head. What else?
Sunglasses, because I'm pretty cool.
Maybe the talking one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You need a phone and the
And
phone.
a phone for sure.
Right. So good. Thanks for the help.
You're welcome. I'm going to throw one in there of what are your pet peeves for interviews as a manager when somebody comes in?
No white socks. Dress up socks. Show up on time. Yeah. I had a couple people that I interviewed and they would show up like a minute or two late. And so I'd let them sit up there for like 10, 15 minutes. Just let them sit there. And then you see them like they're just starting to sweat now. Like, why am I just sitting here? And finally I'd walk up, and this is from my previous manager. He showed me this, by the way. It wasn't really my idea. But I'm like, hey, you were a minute late. So thanks for coming in. I appreciate it.
And you wouldn't even interview them?
Mm-mm.
Oh my gosh.
Harsh. I know.
You need
Okay.
to do like the college 15-minute rule. And if they were, 15
You gotta show up on
minutes.
time. There's a time. That's why it's set. You can't be late. That's your first impression. You're gonna be late. Now, I mean,
Technically,
Well, you
your
just-
first
yeah.
your first impression is the phone call, though.
yeah. But that's the first in-person impression that they're late on their interview and they didn't call.
Okay, I'm never interviewing with Brad.
Honestly, that just stressed me out like big time when you said that. I was like, for 1 minute.
I'm always late, so
So for Brad, it's always 10 minutes early.
Yeah, you gotta. We almost didn't get the job going against my own rule in Albuquerque, coming back to Albuquerque from Phoenix, because they flew me in, and I went to my mom's house. Hi, Mom. And I went to my mom's house, and I was like, all right, I'm just gonna hang out, whatever. I totally forgot about the time zone difference. And all of a sudden, I looked at the clock, and my interview was like at 11:30 or something like that. I looked down at my watch, and it was like 11:10, almost 11:15. And my mom lives up in the Heights, and this was downtown. So I grabbed my mom's car. I mean, okay, sorry, Mom. I was probably going like at least 115 down the freeway.
holy moly.
I was Paul Walkering the corners, like in my mom's little
Fast and Furious,
Honda
Brad.
CRV. Yeah. Trying to
But
find
you
a
made
spot.
it. Were
But
you
I
a
mean-
minute late?
No, I was 3 minutes early.
I was hoping you'd say he was late.
Yeah.
All right. Last question.
Red or green?
Green. Yeah. Red's bad for you.
Red is the best.
It looks like blood on your plate. It's not healthy. Oh, we got to edit that part out.
Yeah.
I think we should do this again.
Well, thanks for coming in. Appreciate the time.
Thanks for finally putting me on the cool list. I appreciate it.
For sure. It's
This
been
was fun.
great.
I feel like I'll nod this thing.
He's made it. He's
He's
been
made
on the
it.
podcast. He's
I don't-
made it.
This is like the top of the peak of my life right now.
Aw.
Was this a bucket list item?
It kind of was. I mean, it really got to a point where it was getting personal. I mean, I said, 16 years, 2 kids. Like I figured you think I'm pretty cool to be on your podcast.
Anyway, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, this is fun. Thanks, everybody. Shout out to my boys, Chase, Cooper. What's up?
Those are our kids.
I seriously thought you were going to start naming like
I know.
DJ and I was like, oh God.
All his past coworkers. All right. Bye.
Bye.
This has been a New Mexico Department of Workforce Solutions production. Our producer is Milo Koleski. This episode was engineered and mixed by John Sloan. Theme music is One Fine Day, courtesy of podcast.co. Follow the show on social media at GoodJobNM. For program funding, visit our website, dws.state.nm.us/funding. Bye.